and everyone has gone to the bathroom.
Yeah, I'm ready with my ice.
I guess it's 10 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
so you can get the show off the road.
That's
Okay.
right.
Good morning, friends in the industry. Good morning, Ito, Francis, and Carl.
Morning.
I can't believe it, but we're already in episode 3 of our season 2 of the IIAP, CPI, and PIRA series of webinars curated to help our audience prepare themselves for a post-COVID world, or a world where we learn to adapt and coexist with the virus. Special thanks to the Philippine Insurers Club for helping spreading the word. And you know what? October is an extremely busy month. The Philippine insurance industry is hosting the ASEAN Insurance Regulators meetings and the ASEAN Insurance Council meetings later this month. On top of that, we are celebrating Insurance Consciousness Month for this October, in tandem with the Insurance Commission, who, by the way, will be hosting a free webinar on anti-money laundering and how it impacts the industry. I think this is on for tomorrow. Anyway, back to our webinar. Francis, Ito, we're extremely fortunate to have our guest speaker today, all the way from Silicon Valley by way of Israel, to give us a glimpse of our products for the future. But before Francis formally introduces our speaker, and before Carl gives the house rules, let's first hear from our indefatigable Miss Ito Gruet of CPI.
Hi, thank you, Mitch. Good morning, Francis. Good morning,
Morning.
good evening, Amir.
Thank you.
Very happy to again be co-hosting this webinar with our dear friends from the industry, and also to again be with all of you. Wow, we're already at 140 plus participants logged on. So good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoy. This is our first morning session. I hope you enjoy. So you don't really just sit back with your coffee or tea and just soak it all in. So Carl, on to you for the house rules.
All right. Everyone, if you have any questions, please go to the Q&A and type your questions in. The chat is open for everybody to share their thoughts and discussion. So everyone knows everyone. So let's all be kind and respectful as we share our thoughts and ideas, right? And as Miss Ito said, while you can soak everything in, do also collaborate and discuss with us. So the session will be very much interactive as we ask Sir Amir on his experience on tech and how we can apply it to the insurance industry. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Mitch and Ito. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Our speaker this morning is the Chief Product Officer and co-founder of Reshuffle.com. Reshuffle is an open source integration framework for developers. Our speaker was also formerly the Vice President for Developer Experience at Twitch, the global community for live entertainment. He has spent the last 15 years building developer products, program interfaces, and startup ecosystems. He was also the director of developer relations at Slack, a channel-based messaging platform, where he helped grow the active user base from 50,000 to 250,000. He was the global outreach lead in Google Play and led scalable programs like Google Launchpad and Google Campus Tel Aviv. He's the author of 2 interesting books entitled Designing Bots, Creating Conversational Experiences, a must-read for those who intend to build and design bots for their business, and another book on designing web APIs. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Amir Shevat. Good evening, Amir.
Good evening. How are you? Good morning, I guess, for
Good
all of you
morning.
there.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be in and talk to this quorum. Let me share my screen. We're going to have the awkward moment of, do you see my screen? And do you see my screen now?
Yes.
we do.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to present. So today we're going to talk, so thank you for having me again. Today we're going to talk about products of the future, about how the pandemic has impacted the Silicon Valley and the rest of the world, and how we can, with the use of technology, work with that and maybe even take it to your advantage. I'll start by, thank you for the introduction, Francis, and I'm going to tell that story from the other way around, from my beginning to the end, very, very shortly. And I apologize, you have to see two versions of my face in the same webinar. So my name is Amir. I'm a co-founder of a startup here in Silicon Valley. I live in Palo Alto, California. This is my Twitter. And what we do is we help enterprises, Fortune 500 companies, connect systems inside their organization. So if they have a marketing system and a sales system that do not together talk together well, and they want to create integrations and workflows between enterprise systems, we help them do that. That's our job. I started my career actually in Microsoft, where I worked with developers on Windows and on SharePoint, if you remember that technology, and even on Windows Mobile when it was still popular. Then joined Google to work with companies on Chrome and cloud and Android, and moved to the Silicon Valley 7 years ago to launch the startup program for Google. So how can Google work with developers and startups around the world? After about 3 years, additional 3 years in Google in Mountain View, I joined Slack. It was a very small startup at the time. For those of you who don't use it, is it popular in the Philippines? Is Slack a thing? Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
I see a few
Yes,
nods.
quite.
So yes.
Yep.
We'll ask
Awesome.
my son.
So I joined Slack when there were 80 people in the company, and we had 50 developers. And I left 3 years later, where there were 2,000 people in the company and 250,000 developers using the tool, the platform. And if you mix between correlation and causation, you would think that I choose companies based on the color of their logos, and that's not true. I actually, and this breaks the pattern. I was then offered the position of being a vice president at Amazon. Amazon acquired a company called Twitch for $1 billion. Twitch is like, if you think about YouTube only live, I'm sure some of your kids are watching Twitch as we speak. Twitch lets game developers stream and create their own TV and create their own community just by playing video games and making a lot of money. And we'll get back to that later on. So I was the VP at Amazon of the platform in Twitch. And then, as Francis mentioned, I wrote 2 books. One of them is on designing bots, and the other one is on web APIs. Okay, so let's dive into the presentation. We've all, if you haven't lived in like a closed cave in the last year, you notice that we all went through a very bad pandemic that hit all over the world. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people, unfortunately, lost their lives. The economy was hit very hard. There's this video that I'm going to show you that shows the level of unemployment from the 60s until today. And it gives you some sort of benchmark on how bad this pandemic is. So let's look at that now. So this is the video. I hope you can see it. It starts with the 60s and then goes to the 70s. And sometimes you see spikes. You remember some of these spikes, I'm sure. In 2000 and in 2008, we had a big spike of unemployment. And then 2020. Whoa. And this is actual numbers. This is unemployment in the US. And this is like, every time I see this video, I get the chills, because you understand how big of a crisis this was, how big of a change it had on our economy. And we haven't even begun to begin to recuperate from that. And some of these companies, like the air companies, airline companies, are still holding people just because the government, the federal government, are still subsidizing these jobs. So we're going to see even more job losses as time passes. So we all got impacted, and a lot of changes have happened. And me as a product person, I try to look at it of, what does it mean for me? How can I adapt to that change, to that drastic, crazy change that is happening? And how do I take the regular process of thinking, of thinking about a product, and how each step of this product has changed and got impacted as a result from Corona, and how can you, as an insurance company, take that change and take that change in semantics, and how do we innovate and take it to your advantage? So let's start. The first thing is ideation and innovation. And the key here is it's time to innovate. If up until now, the things that worked for you up until now were successful, the game has changed. And many aspects of that game changed, not just like from a personal perspective, we're all working remotely, but people have less money, people are out of a job, people have changed jobs, usage patterns have changed, and we'll talk about all of this. But the main key is that it's really an important time to innovate. And if you look at commerce, if you look at one of the major changes that have happened is that things have moved online. If you look at Amazon, their profit has become, the revenue have become crazy big, even more big than in the last few years. Amazon stock was about $1,000 last year, and it's around $3,300 yesterday. So crazy growth in terms of e-commerce. And if you look at the numbers, it's only growing. So if last year we saw a healthy growth of about 4% in e-commerce, the prediction is going to be that it's going to grow even larger. So like the derivative of the growth, the rate of growth is growing. And if you look at another angle, which is interesting, is telehealth. I'm sure telehealth and insurance are tightly connected. And if you look at the last point, the growth in telehealth in a single hospital in the US, in NYU, has grown by 683% for emergency treatments, and by more than 4,000% for elective treatments. So that's a staggering number. That's a shift in technology. That's a shift in proficiency, and that's a shift in economy. If you look at just the health system in the U.S. And I'm talking about the U.S. because that's the market that I live in. But if you look at the numbers, and these are the numbers that the team has shared with me, and I'm very thankful for that. The North America is just a small pond in this, and just a small fish in this pond. So Asia Pacific is doing really, really well here, and a lot of people are online. A lot of people are doing e-commerce. A lot of people are innovating on mobile in Asia. So what you've seen in the numbers that I've shown regarding the US are just an indicator for what's happening in the rest of the world. And I'm sure in your market, things are changing really, really rapidly. Okay. So in addition to have my own startup, I also do angel investment in some other startups. And this is a startup that I invested actually last year. It's called Calmigo. And I want to tell you this story because I want to talk about the opportunity. Calmigo is basically an inhaler for anxiety. What it does is you take it, and instead of blowing into a brown bag to regulate your breathing, if you have anxiety, you breathe into that machine. And it helps you with biofeedback. It has an app. It has information that you can collect on your mobile. It has a scent that makes you more calm. And the interesting thing, I'm showing this to you here, is they were projected to sell about $200,000 of merchandise this year. And in the middle of the year, they already sold $2 million of merchandise. So if you look at the market of anxiety has become, unfortunately, for the rest of us, but fortunately for them, the market of anxiety has become very, very lucrative. So there's always winners and losers. They say that in every war, the most amount of millionaires are created. I hope we're not going to have war or pandemics in the future. But what I'm saying is that when you see these types of tidal waves, you can use them as an anchor to innovate. And the companies that were there and were ready to innovate at the right time got a lot of benefit from this type of change. I can tell you that another startup that I invested in creates paper working documents for teachers, and that grew by 1000% as well, because all the teachers wanted to move online and to move their curriculum online. Okay. So it's a great time to innovate. It's a great time for change. You need to look at actual numbers and what's happening and act really fast. And if you do that, you can actually make a lot of money and win as a result of this. Okay, so we talked about ideation. Let's talk about design and user experience. How are users consuming goods and services now in a way that is different than the way they used to do it? And this is very similar whether you're selling insurance or banking or health or any other service. Human behavior has changed, and you need to think about how people interact with that. So the key point here is that everything is moving online, and a lot of it is moving mobile. This is the most popular insurance tool for young people in the US. I actually, a personal story, when we went to insure with Geico, which is one of the biggest insurer here, and we asked to do our renter insurance, they referred us to Lemonade. So they're also doing a lot of business development around the US, and I think they're going global. It's a startup, not a startup anymore. They've IPO'd. It's a company out of Tel Aviv, and what they do is they provide simple insurance through a mobile app. So you go in, you note what you want to insure, and within seconds you get a claim, and you get an insurance policy that you can subscribe to. And the same thing for claims. Everything is done through mobile. I don't need to speak to anyone, and everything is done through chat, which is the second point that I want to make. Conversational interface. Young people want to talk to machines. It's kind of strange, but if you look at my kid and how they talk to Google Home or to Alexa, it's kind of intuitive for them. For me, it's kind of hard because I'm probably already too old for that. But for young people, talking to software and conversing with software is much more intuitive than anything else.
Amir?
Yes.
Hi. I just had to cut in. You said something very interesting because the Philippines, we have a very young population, and you just said that the young people like to talk to chatbots.
Yes.
And but that is a direction that I've always wanted to see in our insurance industry, particularly with motor car insurance, because for claim servicing to be much better, I think many of the companies here, I think, should probably look into this technology. The big question though is, I don't know if the insurance industry, the insurance market rather, in the Philippines will be comfortable talking to a chatbot, because not many of our claimants will probably not be in that young age. So how what can you say about that? Because I know that what percentage of the population will be comfortable with this, you think?
So there's two angles here. For voice, things like Alexa and Google Home and Siri, it's tend to go towards a young population. A lot of it is because of the speed of voice. Older people sometimes speak slower, and the machine has a harder problem understanding them. And the other one is just it's a new, very radical technology that a lot of people who are older do not understand. But with text, what we've seen with text is that people just, young people understand that this is a bot. And the older you get, people just anthropomorphize the bot. They think that they give it human traits. So what people will actually do, they will not understand that this is a bot. They would not recognize it that this is a bot. They will just see it as a good service, because it's a bot it's a human that's always available, always polite, willing to listen to all their needs, to all their story, the long story that they had, and will always be there for them. So there's an interesting thing that we found is that a lot of people tend to have positive feelings towards the bot. We have this KPI called mean time to I love you. How fast does a user using the bot starts using positive emotions in the text? Thank you so much for helping with this insurance claim. I really love you. This is awesome. So what we've seen is that there's a lot of like strong positive interaction with this type of interface.
Okay, thank you. So it's really personalization, right?
Yes, definitely.
Mitch?
Yeah, if I can put my 2 cents worth in, I guess if they get the info they need, they wouldn't mind talking to a chatbot, just as long as they get what they need. And you know what? Over the past weeks, I've been calling PLDT complaining about my Wi-Fi signal. And you usually get a chatbot in the initial stages of your conversations, right? And since I don't have a choice, I stay on the line until I get a person. See, so I think I'm getting used to talking to a chatbot, and now I don't mind as much as I used to. And I'm not one of those young ones. So I guess it grows on you. If it becomes commonplace, then I guess people accept it more.
Yeah, the only way you can get music in my house is by talking to Google Home. All of the speakers in the house are connected to Google Home, and if I don't talk to the bot, I don't get music at my home. So necessity is another key driver here. And it's a much easier, cheaper, more effective way to have a bot talk to you than a human representative. So a bot could scale and a bot could learn. I think that, there's an interesting point here that not all conversations need to be with a bot. So what you do is you have a first tier of a bot. So the bot has a conversation with the human, but if the conversation becomes too complex or the conversations become delicate, like this is now the time to close a sale or something like that, then the human intervenes. And it's like a hybrid of a bot plus a human interacting with the customer.
Yes. Mitch said something very important, that like in claims, for example, just the mere fact that you can inquire about the status of your claim without any real conversation about why is it taking too long or anything like that. But I think that's very important already.
Yeah, for the tier 1 support, it's a great tool.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. For example, United and KLM have moved their onboarding to chat. And more relevant for the insurance company, There's a company called Leo that provides these conversational interfaces as a service to insurance companies. So you should definitely look at this, the URL. It's called Meet Leo. And this is a company that I've seen, and they do a great flow of getting customer input through a bot. And they can also give you an interface through things like Facebook chat. So if your user is more used to using Facebook chat or WhatsApp, this is a great tool to engage with them where they are. Okay. So now let's look at work. I call it development, but this is like the how did our work change? And I think at least for the Silicon Valley, I don't know how much is that true for the Philippines. A lot of the work has moved remotely. So Google, Facebook, Amazon, Salesforce, and every other big company in the US, in the Silicon Valley, has let their people work remotely and do that for the foreseeable future. My friends in Google will not come back until February. People in Twitter will not come back indefinitely. So they were given the choice to work remotely for the rest of their lives. And this is a big change. This means that our patterns have changed. Our pattern of usage, if you go from insurance perspective, I guess our risk portfolio has changed. I can tell you myself that I started biking. This is the first time I had the opportunity to actually do some physical activity. So I think we need to look at like, how did behavior change? And one of the interesting angles from an insurance perspective that happened with this is the change in car insurance. So car insurance was, in the US, was a very vanilla product. You would just insure your car, and there was not a lot of innovation there. But recently, there's been a lot of innovation around you're insured by the mile, because people are not doing commutes anymore. And if I used to do you work in kilometers or miles?
Kilometers.
Philippines? Kilometers. Okay, so I'm good with kilometers as well. So I used to do about 90 kilometers a day driving to the city and back. I do maybe 9 kilometers a week now, just going to the supermarket and back. So it doesn't make sense for me to insure at the same level. So there's a lot of innovation in this area that is successful in the Silicon Valley, in the US, that is based around you only pay for what you use. And I think this is an important topic. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the monetization area. But if you can correlate how much money I have and how much money can I spend, you can get a lot of value from your customers. Okay, now another aspect of product is getting users and getting distribution. And this is again true for anything from insurance product to a sales product to any other, to social product. You need to get users and you need to get a distribution. And this is facilitated by acquiring users. And I want to talk about a trend of using social and influencer marketing. So if up until now we had bulletin boards and we had advertisements, and then we moved online and things moved to creating ads on Facebook and ads on Google. And that was a very an easy way to acquire users. Now we're moving into more of an influencer marketing. And I can give you an example. This is Ninja. His name is not Ninja, his name is Taylor, but his nickname is Ninja. He's a 26-year-old kid who plays a lot of video games, just like my kids, and I'm sure some of your kids. But he's making about $6 million a month playing video games. How does he do that? He's a streamer. He created his own channel on a company called Twitch, which I worked at, and he created his own TV. And now a lot of people watch him. When I'm saying a lot, I'm saying he has millions of viewers. He has one of the most popular channels in the world around gaming. And gaming is a multi-billion-dollar business. So he became a celebrity. He's now an influencer. And it's paid really well for him because he did a deal with Adidas. He created his own brand on Adidas and did co-marketing with Adidas. And Adidas actually used his name to get to all this young audience. So when I was at Amazon, Twitch, the audience for Twitch was young male, 20 to 45. So young male were the audience for Twitch. And this was not the regular audience for Amazon. Regular audience for Amazon is women 35 to 55. So this was a brand new venue to get a lot of customers through this channel. And just to tell you a little bit about how the money flows here, Ninja's contract with Adidas paid him between 20 and $30 million. All he had to do is wear Adidas shirts when he was gaming, and show the Adidas brand to his millions of viewers. So there's a great opportunity here to get user distribution, to get a lot of new innovation, to get your customers in an interesting and different way. And Ninja is just one of these. There's about 300,000 influencers on Twitch. And I know Twitch is popular in Asia. I don't have the numbers for the Philippines because I don't work there anymore. But I'm sure you need to look at what are the social networks that are effective in your area, and tap into the influencers that are talking to your people, because they are your best salespeople. So whether, yeah.
On that topic, in the Philippines, in fact, I've been in the industry for more than 30 years. There have been definitely moves in the industry to use this type of strategy about probably pinpointing a very distinct market for a particular insurance product. But of course, this was not done online. Of course, we had to resort to different types of advertising for this one. And I'm sure that I think there's a question which is related to that now, that what will be the really basic difference? Because you're talking about influencers here. We never had that word before. And isn't it that the chances of these strategies that we used to do face-to-face or through the old style advertising is a strategy that can be done now using this new format, right?
Yeah, and it's probably more cost efficient, right? Sending people all around to speak to other people versus paying a single influencer that could create a lot of brand awareness and understanding on how to do that, especially when it's young people and especially when they can relate. So for example, if I were to do an insurance product with Ninja, I would probably say, hey, Ninja, your hands are worth probably a few $1 million because you're playing games with your hands all the time. Why don't you insure them, and we'll give you free insurance if you talk about this, the fact that your hands, you just insured your hands for $3 million, right? That's just like a small, yeah. So this is just like a small way to think about innovation with these influencers, and you would be amazed how much impact those people have. So we've done multiple experiments when we just asked these influencers to do one call for action, like do this or do that, buy this, or you should check out that. And the conversion was more than 50%. Now, if you look at like usual ads in the regular industry, like search ads or Facebook ads, If you get 5%, you're very, very happy. And you think that you got a very, very good return on investment on a 3%, 5% click-through rate. And here the call to action converts 50%. So the return on money is phenomenal. So, and by the way, I'm not making any money out of that. So you can, I'm observer. So I see this from the side and I'm just shocked about how these people actually do what the influencers tell them to do.
Okay, thank you, Amir.
Of course. Another thing that we've seen, I'm sure Instagram and TikTok have become popular in the Philippines as they are in the rest of the world. I can tell you that I'm putting a big bet on TikTok because a lot of the people that I knew that were investing in Facebook campaigns and Google search campaigns are now converting their money, their ad spend into TikTok. So because they see the return on investment on that channel. I think the key here is to understand that once you have a channel that users use it, it's a much easier sell to get them where they are. This is, it's one of the most important learnings I've learned from doing products. If the user is using WhatsApp, communicate to them in WhatsApp. If they're using Viber, communicate to them there. If they're using TikTok, be there. Always be where your customers are. So if I were you and I would try to innovate with your audience, I would start by understanding where they spend their day and how can you engage with them where they are, because bringing them to your website is going to become more and more expensive, but engaging them where they are is going to become more and more effective as time passes.
Amir, another question, sorry. What can you say? Should insurance companies now have a person dedicated to do these things for them? Is it, how important is it now during these times?
I would say that it's paramount. I would say that it's like having a dedicated person that's managing the social. The biggest problem that I've seen, the biggest failure that I've seen is people who try to do it as a side project. This is a very serious business. Managing these channels is a serious business. It's very lucrative and the return on investment is very high, but you cannot do it as a side project. You need to have proficiency. Like the tools tell you, hey, just put some $100 here and you'll get users. That is not my experience. My experience is that you need to have someone who understands these channels, who can build the right content for these channels, and who can optimize your money, because these could also be a money suck if you don't do your job right.
Okay, very important. Thank you.
Of course. So to close the loop here, find the places where your customers are at and focus on their interaction. If you can make this interaction interactive like chatbots, that will be even more useful. And then monetization. What we've seen with monetization is that people do not have a lot of money. I don't know how true that is in the Philippines, but a lot of people got fired in the States, and monetization has become a problem for a lot of companies. So monetizing your customer has moved from like, people are not willing to spend big checks. They're willing to spend small amounts and like a bite-size spender on everything. And this reminds me of a story that I want to share with you on Google Play. For about 5 years, Google Play, Android, was not able to sell anything in India. We tried, we put things there, we put apps there, and compared to the size of the population, we saw very, very little adoption of usage. People just didn't pay for apps and didn't pay for anything on Android. And we did a survey, and we found out that we were just selling it wrong. The minimum amount for apps at Google at the time was $1. And $1 was expensive at the time in India. So we just switched from having a $1 minimum to having a 5 cents minimum. And that did a crazy breakthrough in monetization in India. Because people in India were much more keen to, they actually wanted all these apps and they were willing to pay, but they were willing to pay in small chunks. So like make sure that you understand how your customers are willing to pay. If they're willing to pay $5 a month instead of $200 a year, that could be very lucrative for you. Because sometimes the patterns of payment, and it was crazy. We were beating our numbers in India after we changed this monetization pattern. So look at the patterns in Philippines. Look at how people are now willing to spend maybe less money per transaction, but more transactions that could last for a very long time. Does that make sense?
Okay. Amir, yes, if that does make sense. The thing is, I think in the Philippines, I don't know if Mitch shares my thought that I don't know if we have a very efficient way of determining that type of a profile now from our users. So that might be a challenge, but I'm sure with technology now, the companies may have a way to do that.
So one thing that I've seen that worked really effectively is, oh, sorry, Ito, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think, even way back before technology, I would consider the Philippines an installment economy. So many people wanted to buy stuff and pay in installment. So I think that psyche can easily now be transferred to something like what you're talking about, Amir. The psyche is there.
Yeah, so like pay rent for a long time, financial leasing, like I lease this service.
Or even buy jewelry.
Yeah.
1 year to pay.
And we have
every
sachet
payday.
insurance already, right?
Yes, yeah. That's right. Yeah, I think we just have to marry the components together to create.
I just got, very, very true. I just got a Honda, and Honda gave me a 3-year mortgage on that car, like a loan on that car with 0% APR. So that the money was free for 3 years, only for me to buy that car. So think about what can you give? How can you break the payments into small chunks in order to make them more digestible for your customer?
Actually, in our very basic products like motor car insurance, there are many ways to skin the cat, so to speak.
Yeah.
I saw companies doing that a few years back, that they only offer insurance on the days that your most expensive car is going to be used. So normally in the Philippines, your most expensive cars, you'll just like to use it on a Sunday when there's no traffic.
Yep.
So provide insurance for that. Because insuring a high-valued vehicle will entail so much premium. So just insure it on a weekend, something like that.
Yes, Francis. Yeah. Actually, this pay-for-use insurance is starting to gain traction. Actually, there's a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
It says, with mileage count insurance for motor, won't that decrease premium accumulation to pay for claims for the same line? I'll attempt to answer that. The premium amount may be smaller, but the risk that the subject matter that we're insuring is likewise reduced. So it evens out in the end. And on top of that, just like in a sari-sari store where items are bought in small units, you earn more by selling in larger volumes. That's the age-old trick of our old taipans like Henry C. or John Bokongwei, right? That's how they made it. So I guess that can be easily transferred to the insurance sphere.
That's where volume really matters. You replace that with the volume of the sale through the influencers, which Amir just explained to us, right?
It should follow. If it's sold in smaller chunks and is more affordable, then Yeah, the volume should increase.
And the appeal for the product will definitely increase too.
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
Yeah.
besides, Amir was talking about employment in the Philippines. I mean, employment in the US. Well, in the Philippines, it's not too far behind. We are now averaging at a 17% to 20% unemployed versus 5% for the same period last year. So can you imagine that jump?
Yep.
And less people will be able to buy traditional insurance in annual chunks. So maybe this is the time to go break up our insurance into little bite-sized pieces. That's going to be affordable for more.
Yes,
Just
definitely.
a thought.
Yeah, there's an interesting mechanisms that I encourage you to test, which is called A/B testing. What you do in A/B testing, you do this every time you go on Facebook or on Google or any other Silicon Valley product, you're probably subject to an A/B test. In A/B tests, you create these two realities. One, some of your audience get the pay for a year and forget about your insurance. And you take a cohort. You say 50,000 people will get that deal. And 50,000 people will get offered the deal of pay as you go, pay every day, for every week, small chunks insurance. And then at the end of that time, you check which of these audiences performed better from continuing to buy, from a monetization, from a lifetime value of the customer. So I encourage you to do small A/B tests to see if you can experiment with new ideas and new offerings. This is something that Facebook runs about 400 A/B tests a minute. So just so you know, that's what's happening, and that's how we improve product and innovation in the Silicon Valley on an ongoing basis. Awesome. Okay, so we're getting close to the 40. Oh, I'm already over. So I have one more slide. So this is the conclusion that I have for you. So the world is changing, and looking at reality of this year couldn't be different than the reality of last year. My kid just made the joke that if I would go with a mask to a bank last year, I would get arrested. And now if I don't go to a bank without a mask, I will get arrested. So we live in a very, very different state of mind. And that state of mind has impacted the business, our audience, our customers, and their reality. So we need to adjust to that reality in a rational way, or else we'll be staying stale in the back. In some company like Lemonade is going to eat our lunch for sure. Because, and that's a last story for me. When I was in Google, there's a big dinosaur in between the Google buildings. A big dinosaur. And I never understood why there's a dinosaur between all these buildings in Google. So I asked my manager, why is there a dinosaur between the buildings, a big dinosaur? And he says, like, this used to be the offices of Sun Microsystems. And they were a big company that employed a lot of people, but they couldn't innovate fast enough. And now we, Google, are living in their buildings. So just remember that you live on the shelter, on the place where dinosaurs used to live. So if you don't innovate, you get eaten by someone else, and you are considered the old dinosaur. So this is the time. This is the migration through the ice age, and you have to move together or not prevail. So these are my recommendations on how to do that. Increase the rate of innovation in ideation in your company. Think about new ways to engage with your customer. Explore new interfaces. Think about chatbots. Think about mobile. Think about web. Think about conversational AI, texts, and stuff like that. Meet your customer where they are. So find out where your customers are and engage with them in an innovative way there. think of outside the box on different offerings. We talked about like big chunks of insurance versus small bite-sized chunks of insurance, and think about how can you meet their needs and their new financial reality. And then consider different distribution channels. Think about how can you raise awareness through influencers? How can you impact through social media? How can you engage with your audience in a way that is delightful for them in their own medium? So that's the summary. That's the takeaway of my presentation. And thank you. I hope you had a good time. You are all awesome, and I hope you like Star Wars as much as I do. If you're recording this, this would probably be IP violation, so remove this. I don't want to get sued by Disney. And you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Amir Shevat at Twitter. I'm very approachable there, so if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. And if you want to check Reshuffle and reach out about that, I'll also be excited about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amir.
Thank you, Amir.
Thank you, Amir.
That's a lot of food for thought here. But there's a lot of traffic on pay-per-use insurance on the chat boxes and the Q&A box. And
okay, so let's do that.
There was a very good question here where they said, but the law actually states that our policy should be on an annual basis. I'm not sure it does, but if it does, we're in the process of revisiting our law and making suggestions on how we can improve the law. It needs to be reviewed and changed. And actually at PIRA, we've put in a group together to review the various provisions of an existing law and tariff and see what we could do to improve it and, you know, bring it up to the modern times. So we're working on that, guys. Thanks. Ito, Francis?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Francis. Go you first, Francis.
Okay. That's very good to hear, Mitch. But in addition to what you said, a lot of these decision making will have to be done considering maybe not just the law, but also some underwriting considerations. And one of which is I was afraid to bring this up, no? But one of which is adverse selection. This is a question that many insurers have in mind. That when they do this type of marketing and sales, then the insurance industry is prone to adverse selection, which just simply means that you will be attracting those customers that are more prone to loss rather than opening it up to everyone. So maybe I don't know if it's an unfair question for Amir, but how do you respond to that? How does digitalization affect adverse selection?
That's an unfair question for Amir. He doesn't belong to our industry. I will attempt to answer that.
Yes,
Francis, if we are changing the way we're selling things or, cutting up our products into bite-sized pieces, for example, we would have to change our underwriting processes as well. I think change here is the operative word, because if we don't, we're going to be dinosaurs. So there are technological tools that we can even use to help us underwrite selling our insurance products in chunks. Take motor car for an example. There is what we call telematics now in the market. It's a little black box that you kind of stick to your car, and it tells you how often you've used it, how you use it, how you drove. Are you a jackrabbit starter? Do you turn corners, etc.? It tells you everything. It's just like a black box of an airline. And based on the report of that little black box, then you can charge your client accordingly. It's even better. Before you needed to, connect that little black thing into the computer box of your car, but now you don't even have to do that. There are apps that it rides on your telephone. which is in your pocket while you're driving the car. See, so before, when you still needed to buy that unit that you had to plug into your car, which I think is one of the reasons why it didn't sell too well, now it's just an app that you download into your little phone, and which you bring while you drive. So I guess there's a lot of tools that underwriters can use to keep up with the way we're selling insurance, or to keep up with the way we need to sell insurance.
Yeah. But
There's another
perhaps,
point
Amir,
that
yeah, go ahead,
yeah.
Amir. Yeah. No, I was going to say,
Just
Amir,
wanna,
you have,
yep.
you may have insights also how we can use data and analytics to help overcome the adverse selection.
So yeah, I'm a big data person. So like engaging with if I do a Facebook campaign, I know a lot about the user. If I can do a lot of like very targeted advertisement, you can get a lot of data from a user's email. And the other point that I have is investment in the future. When I was in Microsoft, we were giving free tools to students. And I didn't understand that strategy because it was a lot of money that was spent on this young audience. But these students became workers in big companies. And they made the decision to choose the Microsoft technology because we did the investment early on. So investing in young people and in awareness might drive future revenue because the audience just like matures and becomes people who, your kids who are now watching Ninja will become to be the grown-ups who are making millions and do really need insurance. So getting there early on is a good investment in the future.
Okay. There's another question I saw in our Q&A, and maybe we know the answer to this already, but maybe if it will come from Amir, it will be more convincing. There's a question here of whether there are now the limited products in non-life insurance, the usual fire, motor car insurance, liability, and is it important to innovate new ones? Is it because innovating a new product for insurance will definitely probably cost more? So, but how important is now to innovate an entirely new product for non-life?
I can tell you that the latest investment that I've seen, the big investment that I've seen coming out of the Silicon Valley are Next Insurance for small, medium businesses, Hippo for homeowners, Lemonade, and there's another one that I don't forget their name, but all the insurance tech is blowing up now. So big companies from the Silicon Valley are going to get a lot of funding to disrupt insurance tech all over the world. There's a lot of money there. It's an industry that is not highly tech, and these companies want to take over the world. So you can do two things. You can not innovate and just collect the money that you have right now, which is awesome. That's a good strategy. But I recommend if you want to give these companies any fight, you should probably innovate all across your entire stack. Because not innovating will mean inviting disruption.
Okay.
Amir, you just talked about Next for small businesses.
Yes.
Would you also have some tips for us? Because while we have B2C, there's also a big chunk of insurance that is B2B.
Yes.
So insurance companies insuring businesses, maybe not necessarily in insurance, but what techniques or tips could you suggest to us regarding the B2B side in terms of innovations on that area?
So what I've seen work with, from my experience, which I don't know if it's relevant, but I think it is to define in businesses who is the technical decision maker, who needs to judge you by your merits, and who is the business decision maker, who's actually writing the checks. And when I was at Google and when I was at Microsoft, we actually wrote the different marketing and different sales story for these two personas. So like the person who was who was responsible for the checks, we talked about the cost reduction and the optimization of cost and labor. And for the technical person, we talked about the merits of the tools. So if I were to look at it from an insurance perspective and I'm selling an insurance product, I need to understand both what is it good for me from a monetary perspective and what is the key value that I'm getting. And it might not be the same person making the decisions on these two fronts. So I don't know how it translates into your world, but in technology, that's how sales to business are done.
Thank you, Amir.
Of course.
Okay, let's see.
Okay.
There's some questions in the chat, the question and answer box. It says here, oh, maybe our friends in the CPI, Ito, this is for you. By the way, operating a chatbot will require or need government regulations here in the Philippines? Regulations or approval? Would you want to answer that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because at the moment, there seems to be a lot of chatbots already.
Already, yes, already. Especially the telcos, for example.
Exactly.
That's all chatbot, yeah.
So there are no regulations that we know of at the moment, but you know, our government, they can always come up with a new law.
Yes.
To find a way to tax the chatbot.
Yeah, and to
Right.
maximize the discussion, right? So not just the banks or the telcos, but also teams like restaurants, right? To the level of restaurants taking your orders, and also the homeowner. So when you go to Facebook, you go to a Facebook page, any techie, maybe home cook owner, etc., can already implement a chatbot. The main message of having a pre-planned message is already a chatbot on its own. So yes, definitely government can always put a regulation after, but so far there is none because it's a very, very new process.
There's a comment from our friend Vinel Velasco. She says that Mafre and AXA have chatbots. So there are already companies within our industry that have chatbots. So just taking
Chatbot has been there for a very long time. They were called automats, right? They were called automated answering. Right. We just called them something else. Now we're calling them chatbots because people pay us more money if we say chatbots and not automation.
And I guess technology on chatbots will definitely even improve because for insurance, usually, especially I'm talking about on the claim side, the product of the insurance company, which is claim servicing. A lot of our customers or claimants are stressed claimants. So I hope chatbots can actually recognize that. I don't know if that's even possible now.
Yeah, they could be nice. There's now sentiment analysis. And using artificial intelligence, you can do sentiment analysis and understand if the customer is stressed and provide them with a nicer offer. Be more gentle with them.
Yeah, no, maybe Amir sell Calmigo here when they're stressed.
Oh yeah, maybe one of my investment companies could sell Calmigo.
Could sell that anxiety spray.
So we can start talking about insurance policy for stress. How do you cover stress for insurance?
That'll be nice.
Yes.
We have as part of the panel our IAAP president, Maming Jacinto. Maming, would you like to say something about our conversation here?
Hi,
Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I've been here from the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've listened to all
comments. Would love to hear from you, Tita Min.
Thank you very much, Amir, for those very nice, very up-to-date inputs. You know what has been occurring in my mind while you were speaking? Only two things. One is what they said, that will the laws allow the different ways of selling insurance? Then my answer is yes, let's amend the law. Okay. find a way to amend the law.
Yes.
Number two is, I think the insurance industry should now adapt to this new way of doing things. We should hurry up to do that because there are so many issues, so many questions, not only from our clients, especially on claims. There is always something to ask, even just to update on the status of their claims. But there are so many other issues, so many things that need to be asked, and it's very difficult to do that on a 24/7 period. So if there is a chatbot, there is a way to be able to do that anytime, then you will get your answers or replies also anytime. So I'm quite excited about what the institute, which I currently head now, will be able to inspire or guide the industry in uh, being in this or doing business in this new normal. Mitch, I am inspired. My article will be on that.
Thanks, Tito Ming.
Thank you, Tita Ming.
Thank
You know
you.
what? There's another very interesting comment here from, well, an anonymous attendee. Um, there's a lot of questions related to whether we would need approval from the IC for this new way of selling things, or for chopping up our traditional policies into bite-sized pieces, or even using influencers. But they are reminding us, or the person is reminding us, that the IC provides a regulatory sandbox for emerging technology that is not yet regulated. And this is very true. So the IC has committed to be lenient on these new things that we're trying to come up with, so that we can bring our industry up to speed. So thanks for reminding us. Thanks.
I saw another question here
Yeah.
with regards to another regulation-related issue, and that's KYC, or Know Your Customer. So here, especially in businesses like insurance, banking, they do ask a lot of information from the people that they're insuring. And many times, that is what is a turn-off for clients, because they have to enter so much data about themselves when all they need is something very simple or very basic. Amir, how does, in your experience, how have issues like this been dealt with?
In terms of regulations?
No, in terms of when you need a lot of information from your customer, is there a way to make it more user-friendly, less intimidating?
So the way to do it, what I've seen is to, if the problem is keeping your own data safe and secure, so keeping it in your own data center, using, like, basically most of our customers in Reshuffle, that's what they do. They use Reshuffle because they don't want to use, they don't want to send their information to someone else. They want to keep it inside their own silo. If you want to engage with users, and you don't want to get too much information, the pattern is only ask information and the last when there's actual connection to the need. So if you look at, for example, in Instagram, if you want to share an Instagram and you want to share your Instagram photo on Twitter, that's when we ask you for your username and password for Twitter. Just the last second before you actually want to take the action, do we ask you for the sensitive information. If you collect sensitive information beforehand, people don't feel very comfortable with that, and that raises concerns and that raises regulation. But if they have a clear understanding of why they're giving you this information and why this is good for them to give you this information, they're much less inclined to push back. That's my experience.
Thank you.
So if you're going to translate that into an insurance sales process, then if I heard Amir correctly, then probably you can introduce these types of improvements towards the latter part of the sales process.
Yes.
When you've already identified all the needs of the client, and only when you're about to close the sale. So I think
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
method.
Exactly.
Okay. Any more
Awesome.
questions, guys?
There's one question here. Would reconstructing or innovating our existing insurance product need IC approval? Yes, it would. Any change, even if it's just a comma in our policy wordings, would require IC approval. So I guess we don't have any other open questions. Francis, there's a few interesting comments on the chat box. Want to share them?
Wait, I haven't seen them yet. Okay.
From our friend Francis, he says technology should really have more of affect elements. But here, I'm not exactly sure what he means by this. Ito, you want to help me?
I don't know if what he means by affect is it should affect your decision. Affection. Okay, Francis answered affection. More
Alright.
of affection elements. In other words, charming and
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
customer love you,
We
right?
call it
Right,
delightful.
Delightful. Okay. Love, thou love. Love, love, love.
Okay.
Yeah. And that would be something, right? You make them love insurance. I would, yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be hard to do. We're always
Yeah,
the
but
best in
I
the mind
want
of
to.
everybody.
No, but you never know.
Exactly. So I think we have to think our way out of this. There's a lot that we have to do the insurance industry to keep ourselves up to speed. First of all, I think we have to work on our image. Well, usually they only think of insurance when something bad happens. They only get to experience insurance after a catastrophe or after an accident or after a fire. See, that's why they kind of lump us together with all the negatives. So I guess with changing our way of selling insurance, packaging our products and all that, we also have to think of a way of changing our image. Well, I don't know if technology can help us do that.
I agree,
What do you
Mitch.
think,
And I think
Amir?
we can, I agree with you, Mitch. And I think we should use this medium as well to be able to promote that more effectively and to a wider audience.
True, true. Let's all do our little bit. Right, Tita Ming? Are you there?
Yes, I'm still here. Let's make our insurance screens a little happier. I know we are process oriented, but you can always put a balloon or a rose
That's
or
right,
maybe
Tita Ming.
Ito's beautiful face
Thank you.
to charm the client.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
you know what Amir was saying?
You know what I mean.
That's why we need Francis in there, huh? But anyway, Amir was saying when he was introducing himself that he was working for companies that had colorful logos.
Yeah.
Maybe we're trying to change our image as well. Look at the logo behind me. That's Pira's logo.
That
It's
is
just
very colorful. That is awesome. I love the
trying
logo.
to make ourselves young and relevant to our crowd. I don't know if it's working though.
I want to buy insurance. I look at this logo and I want to buy insurance.
Thank you. But yeah, I think we have our work cut out for us.
Yeah. You know, we got a few more follow-ups on the Know Your Customer topic that we were discussing, and they were saying, would it be a factor in underwriting if the information is passed on late? So I think connecting that to what Amir said, if you need the information, like if it's about a vehicle, you get the vehicle information, but you don't need to get everything about the insured, the one insuring it, until he likes the rate you gave him and is willing to buy the insurance. I think that's what Amir was saying. You
Yeah.
only pick up the information when it's
That's
absolutely necessary.
Relevant, yes.
Yeah, relevant. That's right. And then we have a comment from Janice Alfonso. May we request for PLIA, this is the Life Insurance Association, support in pushing, some improving this KYC requirements, because sometimes the people really find it irrelevant and there is already conflict between what KYC wants and what data privacy espouses.
You know, that's so true, Ito. For example, in non-life insurance, for a small policy that pays you what, 500, 1,000 pesos, and for premiums of about 20 pesos, you have to give
Yeah,
your life history. I mean, it doesn't
yes,
make sense, right?
that's
I could
true.
understand if the coverage is something like in its millions of dollars, but for 1,000 pesos, then you have to give your life story. Doesn't make sense. I
Yeah.
guess you have to work on that. We'll let George know. We'll let Leah know if he's not here. We'll pass on your comments to them.
Yeah.
Trimming down KYC. It's not only
Yeah.
a problem for the life, it's a problem for the non-life as well. We'll take note of that. Thank you.
Yes. And then there are also some more questions about the cost or the investment needed to apply some of these ideas. So one was, isn't it too expensive to hire influencers and endorsers to promote bite-sized insurance? And another one asking about justifying heavy investments. Well, I would say that if you're going to sell in the millions, even if it's bite-sized, I would imagine that it would be worth it. And if you are insuring the micro market, I think, and this is good for them, you could get endorsers who would buy into this as a value to the country and maybe not charge so much, or choosing the right endorsers. And I don't think that using the tech tools nowadays is that expensive. It's
I have
just,
an
I think,
idea for
using them
this, Ito.
wisely. Yes, go ahead, Mitch.
Perhaps you can use the influencer as some sort of an agent, and you can probably track the
Yeah,
amount of business that arose out of his
endorsement. Yeah,
influence,
yeah,
and then
influence.
monetize this in one way or another, and he gets paid.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
anyway, you're
So
not using agents because you're going direct, right?
mhm. so
So instead of paying an agent, you pay the influencer. Kind of works out the same way.
uh, the standard process, like especially today, with a lot of folks selling home goods, and then they give it to the influencers. One of the tactics that they actually use is they give a promo code tied to the influencer, and
Oh,
usually, and I think Amir can also state this
Yeah.
in his experience in Twitch, right? You
Yeah.
also don't need to hit the top tier influencers, right? Because top tier influencers, like here in the Philippines, we have the Husafs, Bolzico, right? Definitely, those are the things that the BDO will take or SM will take to and to pay millions, right? But there are micro influencers or influencers that will probably be paid for less, right? But would like their channels to be sponsored as well so that they can continue their content. So one good way to test and measure the effectiveness of a certain influencer is through specific promo codes tagged to them. You want to insure your car and you got it and you learned about it from this insurer. The If you use my code, you get a 10% off, and probably that 10% off would translate back to the influencer as your agent, right?
oh,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
instead of paying an actual person going around, you're actually paying someone who is in a digital landscape doing the selling for you. It's
Yeah.
exactly like an agent, but you can also track their performance through codes. Maybe Amir, since I know Twitch has a lot of this, right? So this is a good
Yeah, it's
insight
called
for them.
affiliation. Basically, you give each customer their own link, and the affiliation link is tracked back through data to see how the performance of that entity, of that affiliate, is performing. Another interesting thing is that you should find influencers that are very targeted. So finding the most popular influencer might not be the right thing for you, but finding an influencer who only does shows on TikTok on how to optimize your household spend could be a great influencer. So somebody who's like not this like ninja who's 26 and has blue hair, but somebody who's like 35, household manager who wants to talk about how they optimize their expenses. And then one of the episodes would be on insurance and how do they do better insurance. That could be an interesting angle because it targets the audience and captures their intent.
like maybe I'll share to like Amir, right? So for example, in car insurance, we have Top Gear Philippines here. So and for sure there will be content creators catering to a certain
Yeah,
specific
exactly.
insurance
Yeah,
product,
Carl,
right?
like
So
just
as you said,
James.
household, etc., etc.
Carl, remember
Right.
James Deacon?
Yeah.
Somebody
Yes,
like
yes.
him for motor, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah, I
I,
got
I
the idea.
I have a tip. I have a tip. So for the insurers listening now, if you're insuring a celebrity and you have already settled a claim for that celebrity who was very happy about it, then you can get him as an influencer.
If that person or if that celebrity already has a following in social media,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but if it's still a traditional media, then won't work.
Okay.
Yeah. Amir,
Interesting.
yeah, Amir, what do you have to say to the comment about this is so expensive? Using the tech ideas is expensive. What do you have to say
So
about that?
I usually measure things by return on investment. When I was at Amazon, I asked the person whose job was to use advertisement for Amazon, what is his budget? And he said, I have an unlimited budget as long as I show positive return on investment. So if your investment actually returns more money than what you spent, then that's a deal that I'm willing to put on every day. And in investment in tech, it should not be extremely expensive. Like building your own chatbot might be expensive, but going into solutions like I've shown, like Leo, might not be expensive. So I would say, like everything in life, there's mix of products that you need to check, and you need to choose the one that fits your expense ratio, and always make sure that you get a good return on your investment.
Thank you.
I was just going through our chat box, making sure we're answering all the questions.
Yeah,
There's a lot of traffic here.
yeah, like 220, 30 people.
Yeah. And you,
We
I'm
went into
thinking this is night, but it's not night. It's actually morning for you guys. So it's
yeah.
This is a testament, I think, Amir, that your topic is just so interesting that we have not seen it
Yes.
drop out so far.
We have, yeah.
yeah.
So we had
actually,
so many more.
actually, it's a good signal for our industry because people are interested how to repackage themselves. So, Amir, just for your information, our whole series of webinars is to get our industry mates out of their old mindsets and for them to embrace technology as a tool. Hopefully,
Yeah,
it's working. It seems like it's gaining traction.
that'll be
So,
amazing.
hopefully, for everybody who's here, hopefully you're getting something out of this. And I guess this is a great time as any to remind everybody of our next two webinars. Ito, would you like to do this?
Yeah, okay. Let me just, Carl, do I share? There, okay. All right, so our next webinar is going to be about making the winning pitch in the digital age. So given that, we now have so many new channels to go through, so you find the right target market, but how do you get your message across? So Lay Reyes is going to tell us about that. How do you create messages that will, you know, have the affection component that people will really want to go and engage with you? So that's going to be next week, Wednesday, October 21. We are back to the 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. time slot. Okay. And then next to that, Carl, can you flash the next one? Okay. And then to cap our webinar season, we will have Ms. Gea Lopez, who is the industry analytical head from Google, who will help us also wade through we were talking about how important data is to make decisions and to target our market. So Gea will talk to us about how we may be able to do this. So again, that will be on October 29, and that is a Friday. Is that a Friday?
Yes, it is a
Yes.
Friday.
Okay. So yeah. So Wednesday next week and then Friday the week after. So hope that you will join us for those last two sessions. That's it for me.
Well, at this point, we'd like to thank Amir. Thanks for those great insights, Amir. And we hope
Thank you
to
for
get to
having
meet
me.
you in person. You're always
Yes,
welcome in
hopefully.
the Philippines.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we will lay the red carpet down
No
when
need
we
for
meet.
red carpet. I just like good
No,
food. That's
no.
all I need.
Good food. Okay.
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you,
Hopefully,
Amir.
when all this is
Thank you.
over. Thank
Yeah.
you
Awesome.
very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Yeah. Thank you
Have a
so
good one.
much. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody. See
everybody.
you in our next webinar next week.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
I
Mami,
wait.
for joining the
Yeah.
panel.
Please fill in the post webinar
Survey
survey. Yeah. Fill in the post webinar survey.
Oh, yes.
to
And
see
you
if
know,
we can improve.
everybody stayed, huh? Everyone stayed.
Mhm.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Oh, bye, Tita Ming.
Bye, Tita
Bye.
Ming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Cakes. Thanks, Ito. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, thank
Thank you,
you.
Carl. Thank you,
Thanks
CPI.
so much. Yeah, thank you also.
Thank you, Shelly, on the background.
Yeah.
Oh, Shelly, of course. Thanks, Shelly.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.